Imagine walking through an abandoned tunnel in the mountains, rust flaking off steel doors sealed since World War II, when your metal detector suddenly screams. On the other side, according to rumors, lies a Nazi train loaded with gold, jewels, and stolen art, and 80 years of secrets. Tonight, we're diving into one of the most controversial treasure hunts in modern history, the search for Nazi gold. Billions in looted wealth vanished in the chaos of the Third Reich's collapse. Gold bars, diamonds, rare paintings, even entire rooms made of amber and gold leaf. Some of it was recovered. A shocking amount was not. From mysterious lakes in the Alps to hidden bunkers in Poland, from bank vaults in Switzerland to sunken U-boats off the Atlantic coast, we'll explore the biggest legends and the best evidence. Stay tuned, because by the end you may look at old wartime ruins and modern banks very differently. The phrase Nazi gold sounds like pure Hollywood, but it's rooted in something brutally real: organized looting on an industrial scale. As the Third Reich expanded, special units stripped banks, museums, and homes, especially those of Jewish families, of anything valuable. Gold teeth, wedding rings, museum masterpieces, all fed into a hidden financial machine that powered the war. In this video, we're going to unpack how that system worked, what happened to the treasure as Germany collapsed, and why so much remains unaccounted for. We'll separate romantic myths from firmly documented cases, and we'll follow the paper trails, dive logs, and testimony that keep these mysteries alive. If you're into deep evidence-based history and stories that blend crime, war, and mystery, you're in the right place. Consider subscribing and tapping the notification bell so you don't miss future investigations. And watch through to the end, where we'll connect these old mysteries to very modern questions about money and justice. To understand these treasure mysteries, we have to look at how the Nazis turned theft into policy. Early on, they passed laws stripping Jewish citizens of their property. As Germany conquered territory, special units, the Einsatzstab, Reichsleiter Rosenberg, and others, followed behind the army, cataloging and seizing valuables. Gold from national reserves, cash from banks, industrial stocks, religious artifacts, private jewelry, museum masterpieces, nothing was off limits. Confiscated items were sorted in hubs like Berlin and Munich, then shipped to the Reichsbank or hidden in mines and remote depots. At the same time, the SS plundered concentration camp victims on a horrifyingly personal level, taking teeth, hair, and valuables. Much of that gold was melted down and recast into anonymous bars. By 1945, Nazi loot stretched across Europe in vaults, trains, convoys, and secret caches. When the front lines collapsed and chaos began, that's when fortunes started to vanish, and legends of missing Nazi gold were born. As Allied forces pushed into Germany in 1945, Nazi officials scrambled to hide what they'd stolen. Mines, caves, and abandoned factories became impromptu vaults. One of the most famous finds was in the Merkers salt mine, where American troops discovered thousands of gold bars, sacks of currency, and vast art collections. But for every Merkers, there were places that remained untouched, or at least undocumented. Convoys disappeared. Trains were rerouted. Local commanders, party officials, and SS officers created their own private stashes, hoping to fund escapes or future underground networks. Some of this gold did surface after the war, traded quietly for new identities, or funneled into clandestine political operations. Some likely slipped into legitimate banking systems. What's left behind is a patchwork: partial inventories, conflicting eyewitness accounts, and physical hints like collapsed mine entrances or sealed tunnels that fuel decades of speculation. The key question driving treasure hunters today is simple: how much is still out there and where? Let's start with one of the most cinematic legends, the Nazi gold train in southwestern Poland. According to local tales, a heavily loaded armored train vanished near the end of the war, somewhere around the city of Wałbrzych, possibly hidden in tunnels beneath the Owl Mountains. In 2015, two treasure hunters claimed they'd found it using ground-penetrating radar. Headlines exploded worldwide. Officials cordoned off areas and excavations were announced. For a moment it seemed like history, and maybe billions, were about to emerge from the hillside. Then, nothing. The dig turned up scrap, but no armored cars, no gold, no definitive proof of a train. Skeptics say the legend is a mix of post-war rumor and wishful thinking. Believers argue that the search was too limited or in the wrong spot entirely. What remains are fragmentary testimonies, wartime documents mentioning special trains, and a tantalizing possibility hidden deep inside miles of wartime tunnels. Travel south into the Austrian Alps and you'll find another legend. Lake Toplitz. This deep, dark mountain lake was used by the Nazis for secret experiments and dumping grounds. After the war, divers discovered counterfeit British banknotes there, part of Operation Bernhard, a plot to destabilize the British economy. The existence of those forged notes is proven, but rumors insist that somewhere in the lake's depths lie crates of gold, documents, maybe even SS archives detailing hidden assets. Diving in Toplitz is dangerous. The lake has layers, clear water on top, then a dark, oxygen-poor zone full of decaying logs that form a lethal underwater jungle. Visibility is terrible, and the bottom plunges deeper than many recreational divers can safely reach. Several expeditions, some government-backed, some private, have searched. They've found more fake currency, wreckage, and occasional artifacts, but no confirmed gold. Still, the combination of real history and impenetrable depths keeps the legend alive. One of the most intriguing angles in the Nazi gold story sits not in a forest or lake, but in bank ledgers. During and after the war, Switzerland, Sweden, Portugal, Spain, and others did business with the Third Reich. Gold, some of it looted from occupied countries or victims, was laundered through central banks. After 1945, investigative commissions found that neutral states had accepted gold they should have known was tainted. Some of it was returned. Much was not. Survivors and governments pushed for restitution, leading to high-profile inquiries in the 1990s. While large-scale hidden vaults packed with Nazi gold in Swiss mountains are likely more myth than reality, the financial story is no less dramatic. Instead of chests in caves, we have complex paper trails, coded transfers, and secret accounts. The mystery here isn't so much where is the gold buried, as how much dirty wealth quietly blended into post-war economies and who ultimately benefited from it. Some lost Nazi fortunes may rest under the waves. During the war, U-boats transported not only weapons and supplies, but sometimes valuable cargo meant for friendly or neutral nations, or for escape routes as defeat loomed. Rumors persist of submarines sunk while carrying gold, industrial diamonds, or important documents. A few wrecks, like U-534 and U-859, have fueled speculation, though confirmed gold finds are rare and usually modest. Underwater archaeology is expensive, risky, and technically challenging. Depth, currents, and wreck instability can make recovery nearly impossible. That hasn't stopped treasure hunting companies from buying sonar surveys and scanning shipping records in search of promising targets. Often the real treasure turns out to be historical data, decoded messages, cargo manifests, and the stories of crews who never returned. Still, every newly discovered U-boat wreck sparks the same question in the media and public imagination. Could this be the one hiding Nazi gold on the seafloor? Not all Nazi loot was bullion. Some of the most haunting mysteries involve cultural treasures. At the top of that list stands the Amber Room, a dazzling chamber of amber panels, gold leaf, and mirrors once housed in the Catherine Palace near St. Petersburg. The Nazis dismantled it in 1941 and reinstalled it in Königsberg. After heavy bombing and the city's capture, it vanished. Was it destroyed in the fighting? Hidden in a mine or bunker? Loaded onto a ship that sank in the Baltic? Over the decades, countless tips have led investigators to cellars, tunnels, and wrecks. Fake panels, forged documents, and wild claims have muddied the waters. Meanwhile, modern craftsmen painstakingly recreated the Amber Room from scratch, which you can visit today. But the fate of the original remains one of Europe's great art mysteries. a symbol of cultural loss and a reminder that Nazi treasure isn't just about money, but identity, memory, and stolen heritage. Behind every legend of Nazi treasure, there are real people. Divers risking entanglement in underwater forests, cavers squeezing through unstable tunnels, historians buried in archives, and, sometimes, con artists chasing investor money. Serious investigators blend disciplines. They study wartime logistics, interview aging witnesses, cross-check maps, and use tools like ground-penetrating radar, magnetometers, and satellite imagery. They also face legal barriers. Many suspected sites lie on private land, in protected nature reserves, or under strict heritage laws. Then there's the ethical side. If a hoard is found, who owns it? The state, the finder, the descendants of those it was stolen from? These questions can be as complex as the hunt itself, and sometimes they're the very reason governments quietly discourage large-scale treasure searches. The result is a world where solid research, adventure, bureaucracy, and myth collide, producing dramatic TV shows, occasional breakthroughs, and many dead ends. Untangling fact from fiction is hard because evidence from 1945 is messy. Records were burned, witnesses died, and survivors' memories faded or conflicted. Rumors thrive in that kind of vacuum. For example, a single vague reference in a wartime diary to a special convoy can spawn entire books and expeditions. A misinterpreted map symbol might send teams digging in the wrong valley. Meanwhile, fabricated documents occasionally surface, sold to collectors or TV producers, further polluting the historical record. Serious scholars and investigators use a kind of forensic approach, corroborating independent sources, checking logistics, and asking whether a story fits known military realities. Could that train really have gone that route under Allied air dominance? Would that much gold be entrusted to a minor official? The most plausible mysteries are the ones that survive this scrutiny. Many spectacular claims quietly fall apart when exposed to basic questions of geography, timing, and motive. It's tempting to imagine one gigantic, untouched hoard waiting to be discovered, but the reality is probably more fragmented. Many caches were small, improvised, and quickly raided in the chaotic post-war years by locals, soldiers, or occupying authorities. Some gold almost certainly funded escapes along so-called rat lines, helping former Nazis reach South America or the Middle East. Other assets morphed into business investments, political donations, or quiet bank holdings, gradually losing any visible connection to their criminal origins. There are also credible cases of art and valuables surfacing in private collections decades later, forcing difficult conversations about restitution. Sometimes heirs recognize a painting in a catalogue. Sometimes a deathbed confession reveals a hiding place. So when we talk about lost Nazi treasure, we're likely talking about a mosaic of remnants. A few sealed tunnels, scattered coins in lakes, unremarkable gold bars in respectable vaults, and paintings hanging silently on the walls of people who may, or may not, know their true past. Why does Nazi gold still fascinate us? Partly it's treasure hunt psychology, the irresistible idea that unimaginable wealth lies just out of reach, waiting for the right clue. But there's something darker at work, too. These stories force us to confront how modern our idea of evil really is. The Nazis weren't medieval raiders. They were a bureaucracy that turned theft and murder into numbers on spreadsheets and bars in vaults. When we chase their missing gold, we're also chasing unanswered questions about complicity, memory, and how societies deal with stolen wealth. The legends endure because they sit at the intersection of horror and adventure. Indiana Jones meets War Crimes Tribunal. Every rumored bunker or lake is a portal back to unresolved trauma. And maybe, beneath it all, there's a hope that finding and properly returning what was stolen could offer some measure of symbolic justice, even if it comes generations too late. Let's pull together what we've uncovered. First, Nazi gold is not a myth. The regime systematically looted Europe's wealth, gold, currency, art, and personal belongings, on a massive scale. A significant portion was recovered after the war, but gaps in the records and chaotic end-of-war movements created room for real mysteries. Second, Many of the most dramatic legends, the Gold Train, Lake Toplitz, lost U-boats, sit on a spectrum from confirmed historical cores to exaggerated or misguided quests. The most credible leads usually combine solid documentation, logistical plausibility, and physical evidence. Third, the story isn't just about buried treasure, it's about how stolen wealth flowed through neutral banks, funded escapes, reappeared in private collections, and raised unresolved questions of restitution. Finally, these hunts reveal as much about us as about the past. Our hunger for adventure, our discomfort with injustice, and our struggle to untangle fact from fiction when money, myth, and memory collide. If you've stayed with this journey through tunnels, mines, lakes, vaults, and galleries, you've seen how messy and compelling the hunt for Nazi gold really is. Some mysteries are likely exaggerated, some almost certainly unsolvable, and yet new clues and claims still appear. Now I'd like to hear from you. Which story struck you as most plausible? The Polish gold train, Lake Toplitz, the Amber Room, or the hidden banking networks? Do you think a truly massive, intact hoard is still out there? Or have the treasures already been quietly scattered into the modern world? Drop your thoughts, theories, or questions in the comments. I read as many as I can, and they help shape future investigations. If you found this deep dive valuable, consider subscribing, hitting the notification bell, and sharing this video with someone who loves serious history and mystery. And if you'd like a follow-up episode on specific cases or newly declassified files, let me know below.